What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bolt Standard Podcast. I'm here, Dylan Martin, your host, Justin Harley. How we feeling today, Justin? Fall is kind of coming by, a little brisk in the air this week. We got football on this weekend. It's not NFL, but we got some football back.
Yeah, man. No, I'm excited. I'm excited. I love all seasons. I'm probably maybe like one of the only people that maybe loves like every single season. But I will say I do love when that fall weather starts to come because it's just, brisk weather, nice breeze. You want to
Yeah.
be outside with pants, throwing a little crop,
Uh-huh.
kind of like a crew neck or something like that.
Yeah.
But I love the fall weather, man. So everything's feeling good, man. Like you said, man, got football back on, got college football this weekend. And then obviously, we kick it off not too long, man. I think what 8 days, 8 days we kick it off, but then obviously,
Hmm.
they got Dallas and the Eagles on Thursday. But yeah,
Yep.
man, excited about next Friday. So yeah, going everything's good on my end, man.
Let's go. That's awesome. Yeah, a week away from NFL football. Chargers, a week from when you guys are listening to this, but 8 days from right now when we're recording. Just that good time. I used to be a big summer guy, like the warm weather, but I think I'm a fall guy now, mostly because, that means football season's here. So I think I'm coming around to fall. I could, wear some of them long sleeve Charger gear that I like to wear. So.
For sure.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited about all this. Really excited about what we get to talk about now. We made it through that preseason and now, so this is going to be our 2025 season preview episode. And we get to talk about the big dogs now. We get to talk about 10, we get to talk about Derwin, Khalil, guys that are going to make an impact. And, I mean, we got some guys that we'll mention that we talked about this preseason and this first topic here because yesterday the Chargers' initial 53-man roster was dropped. Um, what were your thoughts on that? What position group stood out to you when you saw that drop yesterday?
So I think just taking it back to kind of, 2 weeks ago, we did the, our kind of 53-man roster predictions. And honestly, I mean, I think we were pretty close with a lot of our groups. Obviously, I mean, I don't, if you're able to predict the 53-man roster for your team, I mean, you got some good inside information because
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of roster manipulation going on. So there were some moves where I was like, man, we didn't keep him, or we kept this person, and then it's like, oh, this is why.
yeah,
So Joe Ortiz, Jim Harbaugh, I mean, those guys are really, really intelligent. They know how to manipulate the roster. But with the initial 53, keyword being initial, because even today, I mean, there has been some moves. So
yeah,
definitely not the end all be all, but I mean, I loved what we did. I
yeah,
think when you look at all groups, like I said, we know that offensive line is still a work in progress. I don't think that Ortiz and Harbaugh are done adding to that room, whether it's depth pieces or whether it's bringing in a quality starter that's going to either take a spot or compete for a starting spot.
right.
But I just look at all of the positions and I just love everything we did. I think there's just depth every single position. More notably looking at, I think in my 53-man roster prediction, I think I had a 11, no, it was 10 actually. I had 10 defensive backs. I had five safeties, um, and I had five DBs. We kept 12 DBs.
12.
Man, that's a deep group. Eight of them being corners, and then four safeties. And it's so funny because, like you said, talk about that roster manipulation. You kind of seen some of it already. It's like, man, we kept 12 DBs, but literally right after that, Eric Rodgers placed on IR.
Yep.
Deshaun Phillips signed to the roster. So just some real cool things happening and just unique roster manipulation that I really enjoy about the business side of the NFL.
Yeah.
Like I said, depth everywhere. Loving the way the roster is looking. I think the only other spot that I would highlight is our running backs. We kept just straight bullies in the running back room. Nothing
Ye-
but 220 and over. Hampton 220, Najee 240, Haskins 230.
Man.
We got some big bruising running backs. So I think that's just going to be a big emphasis. Obviously, I mean, it's Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh. We want to run the ball, but
Yep.
that right there is telling you like we ain't doing nothing pretty. We're going to run it down your throat. We're
Yep.
going to run right at you guys, and we're
Yep.
going to make you guys tackle us for 4 quarters, and we're going to tire you out.
Yeah.
So that's just some big things that I took away from it. What about you?
Absolutely. That's where I was going to start right there was that running back room. Jim Harbaugh football, man. We got big guys that are going to run straight at you. I like what we're doing. We have Omarion, so it's going to be our guy. I think what I saw from that room just being him, Najee, and Hassan Haskins, it shows me that they think Najee's really ready. And yesterday we saw for the first time some clips of him in full pads, legit practicing.
Hmm.
And in my estimation, I know it's just on air, he looked pretty solid running out there. Now, hopefully the vision in game is good, but from the looks of it, it's not like, I guess the one good thing about it being a facial injury, it's not like he's recovering from a knee or an ankle or anything that like is really going to bother you when you get hit or make a cut or anything like that. So as long as he was in football shape, which I'm sure he was heading into, 4th of July and now, doing some stuff on the side the last couple of weeks, I think that just shows how much of a belief that they think he will play even next week in Brazil against the Chiefs. And also that we believe in Marin Hampton's going to be the real deal because honestly, those are two guys. Hassan's there as a special teamer.
Yeah.
So I really didn't like to see Rocket go, but cutting him and then cutting Kamani and then having him come back to the practice squad just shows that those two guys are really just going to be our horses and we believe in them. We think they're going to be ready. I think it's also interesting though that you know, we didn't keep him around. And that's what changed up a lot of that 53. Like when we did our predictions, a lot of things we had, I think we both had the three quarterbacks and four running backs.
Yep.
That's two roster spots right there that I think went to like that defensive side of the ball, the
Yep.
DBs that we didn't anticipate being there.
Hmm.
Which makes sense why we did that because I think DB depth is really important in Jesse Minter's system. And you want
Yep.
guys that have been around and know it. And now that they spent a preseason and showed that they can do things in his system, I think we don't want to let those guys go. So I think it's a really valuable position to have. And plus, those are just really good special teamers, especially with this new kickoff rule. You want guys that can get down there quickly. It's got to stay in bounds this year. You don't want
Yep.
teams starting at your 35. So I look at a lot of those guys as special teamers. I will also say I wanted to throw this one out there because we're on the DBs. I was surprised about Tony Jefferson not making it as that fourth safety over Williamson, but I think it goes back to that special teams point. I think Williamson is going to be a good special teamers, and I don't think you want the vet, my guy Tony Jefferson, Unk out there on special teams. I think if we have an injury to like Elijah Molden or Gilman, especially with Tony being back on our practice squad, we'll see him play defensive snaps
Mhm.
and not Kendall Williamson.
For sure. No, I mean, I love that point. Definitely don't want Unk on special teams. Can he do it? I mean, we've seen
Probably.
what he's done in the preseason just on the defensive side of the ball. I'm sure he could do it. But obviously, we don't want Unk out there. And I think another part of it is that's just that roster manipulation. I think when you look at it, we had three guys that got claimed off of our, pretty much off of our 90 man, whoever was cut and waived. It could have been a lot more. I mean, what if we kept Uncle in there and didn't put Kendall Williamson? Kendall Williamson probably would have got claimed. He played really well this
All right.
preseason, and he was someone who I kind of we talked about like Nico Reed and Rocket and just different people. And Kendall Williamson was someone who I kind of gave like a little shout out to, and I was like, hey man, like he's playing really good too. I mean, like I'm liking what I'm seeing from him, and I think that was another part of it where if you don't keep him on a 53 and you waive him, someone's going to claim him. I mean, we lost three. We could have lost a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think that was a part of it. Um, I will say, looking at everything, like I said, with the roster manipulation, I don't. There's a lot of people who think that a lot of the are because we had three undrafted free agents. Um, I'm not going to call Caleb Murphy an undrafted free agent, but he would be the fourth person in there. We have four people make the roster that a lot of people probably didn't have pegged in the beginning of the preseason to make
Right.
it. I don't think those guys are placeholders. I think those guys are going to come out, and I think they're going to actually play pretty meaningful snaps, especially Caleb Murphy.
Yeah.
Nico Reed, Eric Rogers, obviously on IR, Kendall Williamson. Those guys are going to play, especially like you said, special teams is going to be important. But I'm excited to see what those young guys do, and most importantly, Marlo Wax. I
Mm.
think with that linebacker room the way it is, he's definitely going to get a lot of valuable snaps. Because if you look at that linebacker four from last year, I mean, that was Colson pretty much.
Yep.
Or I guess you could say Colson, Troy Dye. They both played a lot of good, a lot. Well, Colson probably would have played more snaps if he wasn't battling injuries the whole year. But they played a lot of snaps. So Marlo's going to get on the field. And I'm excited to see that translate from the preseason to the regular season because he got some juice, man. So I'm
Yeah.
excited about those undrafted free agents.
I'm with you. I was going to make that point too. Three undrafted from this year making
Mhm.
our roster. I love that for a few reasons. Because it shows if you do get an invite to this camp, you have a legit chance to make this roster.
Yep.
Like we say, like Harbaugh says, competitors welcome. And I think that's true because I don't know how many other teams had that many undrafted free agents make it, especially with a proven roster like we have around us.
Yep.
So I think three is solid because it shows guys that like, hey, I can come in here and I can beat out like, Trick Bridges, who was a draft pick of ours that we cut, for example, stuff like that. Even a sixth rounder, our lineman that we cut. So
Yeah.
I think it shows that we're willing to, if you perform like Marlo Wax, which big shout out to him, like you already gave him, I'm giving him a shout out too. He was a dominant force in that San Francisco game. And for all the people that say, oh, it's just preseason, he won himself a job off a third preseason game or week 4 for us.
Yeah.
Um, will he play? Probably. Like you said, Colson's not playing. He's done for the season. We need someone to fill those snaps. And I think he looks more ready than Delshawn Phillips. Um, and can he come in for Troy Dye? Hopefully, he can take some of those snaps. They believe in Troy Dye. They say he looks really good, so I hope he does because he's, really versatile for us, and he played well last year.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge believer in him initially, but I think he looked really good by the end of the year with us.
Another one of your ducks, man.
Yep, another Oregon Duck. So I'm a believer in those guys. So, but I think Marlo Wax, man, he just puts on really good film. He's quick out there, a little bit undersized linebackers, why people didn't draft him.
Mhm.
But speed at the linebacker position is such a big thing. And he closed that gap when he filled the hole. He was getting after the passer when he was a blitzer.
Yep.
So he'll be a nice special teamer, even if that's just his role initially. And if he gets defensive snaps, I think he can make an impact for us. And of course, Nico Reed, if we see him on the field, ball hawk. So definitely love that those guys made it, and we kind of saw some of that early in the preseason, and they were rewarded for their performances.
For sure. And last thing before we jump over to the next topic, you know who else was the undersized linebacker that we drafted? Deion Henley. He was undersized. I mean, Deion Henley's only about like 6'2", and he was, I think, 220, and at
Mm.
220s, very, very low 230s, maybe.
Yeah,
Same thing Marlo Wax. Marlo 6'1", about 230. But it's some of those intangibles that you can't really teach, being able to see the plays, that read recognition, flying around, just always being around the ball. I mean, it's Marlo Wax. So definitely
absolutely.
excited about him. Definitely excited.
Yeah, big time. So shout out to those guys being on that initial 53. Can't wait to see what we look like next week. So talking about this 2025 season preview episode we got going, I want to take it this way before we get into maybe like a record prediction, something like that. I want to talk about two things that could happen for the Chargers, right? It's two possibilities for our season, just like anybody. Why we will make the playoffs and why we won't. I like to start with the glass half full, positive type of guy. So let's talk about why the Chargers will be a playoff team. So, what is the main reason you think the Chargers will be a playoff team this year?
I mean, I think a lot of it is, at least when you look at all the great teams, I think it comes down to quarterback play. And I think we got one of the best to do it. The one that,
Mhm.
currently, obviously as years goes on, I think he's going to be one of the best ever. Not biased speaking, just see the talent, see what he's out there doing every year. So I think quarterback play definitely is going to be something that we got Herbert. I mean, I think that he's going to be able to win us some of those games that maybe come down to the wire. I think the other thing is, I think depth. When you look at a lot of teams that either start off hot, or they have a long, they just steady throughout the whole year. I think it's those teams that have the depth and it's at multiple positions because just look at it. I mean, what if we didn't have, and I'm not saying Trey Pipkins is just some, oh my, I'm so happy we got Trey, but what if we didn't have Trey and Slater went down? It'd be Joe Alt and who else on that right tackle? Would it be David Sharp before we cut him? Would it be Branson Taylor? We kept him, or did we throw Jamari out there? Which I like Jamari, but depth means so much, especially
Yeah,
when you're playing a game like football. There's so
yeah,
many injuries, so I think if we're gonna make the playoffs, I think there's so much more that goes into it. But I think quarterback play, and I think just the overall depth on the roster, I think is what is going to lead us to being able to make that playoff push.
absolutely. So I'm right there with you. If I had to say one thing, the first thing I got on my notes here, Justin Herbert. I don't think we're gonna do a podcast this year where I don't sing his praises, so here it is.
Mhm.
And you said no bias, all bias on this one for me. It's 10, man. I just think though, in all seriousness, that this is a really big prove it year for him as well because a lot of these years we've heard about his stats, right? And maybe people gave him the benefit of the doubt of bad coaches when it was Lynn and then Staley and then bad defense. Um, we don't have those things going on this year. And maybe last year the excuse was no receiving core. That's not an excuse this year either. We brought back a big piece for him. We still have Lad, who's going to take another step, and we added guys around that. So I feel super confident in that. And it's year 2 of a new system for him. So more comfortability, not coming off. He missed the whole preseason and training camp last year, which isn't mentioned much, and then re-injured that same leg against the Steelers in what was that, week 4, correct? Against the
Yeah,
Steelers.
yeah, I believe it was week
So that's hard to do. It took away something that maybe he thought he could have done last year as a dual threat, and we've heard that it could be a possibility this year of running the ball a little bit more. We know Roman comes from Baltimore, where he ran with Lamar Jackson. Before that, 49ers, Kaepernick. So maybe some more of those run plays could be in there because Herbert did it before. In Oregon, if you look at his even just his last game in the Rose Bowl with Oregon, he had 3 rushing touchdowns, and a
Yep, just
couple
about to
of them
say
were
that.
20 plus yarders.
Yeah,
So it's not like it's something he's never done before. It was a one-off. Like he's a mobile quarterback that just he for the better of the team hasn't ran much, and for the better of his own health, because year before he gets injured week 2 against the Chiefs with his ribs. That's a year-long thing. So
yeah,
um, I think we can see an unlocked version of Justin Herbert coming in healthy. Year 2 in this system, a quarterback, a coach that believes in him. So I think sky's the limit for Justin this year. I know it's never been a numbers thing because if it was, he's an all-time great already. Leader in almost every passing category through 5 years.
yep,
So I think we will be a playoff team because of him, and he'll be the main reason, and then he'll get himself that playoff win to get into that category with Burrow, with Allen, with Mahomes, with Lamar. Those guys are up there in that top 4, and I understand. Maybe I don't understand why Burrow is. He lives off one run, but outside of those, those top 3 guys are there for a reason, and there's a drop off after that. So I would love to see Herbert get in there. Second thing I'm going to say is I think Jesse Minter and this defense, they get talked about, but because we don't have Derwin James is a superstar that doesn't get as much talked about as a superstar, like some of these, like a Micah Parsons type, maybe because he's a safety, not a D end. But
yeah,
like our defense is going to be another reason why we make the playoffs. 17.7 points allowed last year, first in the league. I think we're going to take the ball away a lot more because in year 2 of this system with a lot of the same pieces, I think you're going to see a lot more exotic blitz patches, um, coverages. The scheme is just going to be crazy this year. So I'm looking forward to see what year 2 of Minner looks like with this team.
yeah. No, I second that too. And like I said, I didn't want to, point out too many things, but that defense, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's look at what we did last year. Number one in scoring defense in the league. And I think it only gets better, like you said, year 2. I think we added a lot more depth, and I mean, we brought in some different guys that can make it happen too. Dante Jackson, he's a ball hawk. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people talk about, oh yeah, well his PFF grades this and that. He's a ball hawk, man. Like
Yeah.
he's a ball hawk. And Jesse Minter, he's going to value those guys. He's going to put them in the right spot. It's not about, oh, maybe he didn't play man coverage the best. Minter is going to put his guys in the right spot. That's the difference between a lot of coaches and Minter. Minter
Yeah.
knows, hey, this guy, this is what he can do. Yeah, I may let him do a little bit more, test him, see if he rise to the occasion. But I'm putting my guys in the right spot. So, no,
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head with that one. Love it.
For sure. So, if we're going to look at the other side of things, if the Chargers miss the playoffs, why will the Chargers miss the playoffs this year? What would be that reason you think?
Um, I well, just kind of what any team, injuries maybe.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if I had to really like key in on maybe like a position group or a player, um, I think it would have to be O line. I mean, I think we're still undecided. I don't want to say we're undecided. I mean, I still think our O line still looks relatively good. I mean, we got Joe Alt, who can be an All Pro at that left tackle spot. He showed that he was really, really exceptionally good last year at the right tackle spot as a rookie. Brought in Mekhi Becton, who should be a huge lift to that right guard spot. We should get serviceable play out of Trey Pipkins.
Yeah.
Um, and I got my fingers crossed there. Viewers, you can't see it. Fingers crossed. I think we're going to get a better year out of Zion and Bose in year 2 in those same spots, and knowing that Zion took a lot of reps at center, so he's understanding protection maybe a little bit better. He's knowing that when there's stunts happening, he has to keep his head on the swivel, and he can't just get locked into his man and he's trying to block. There's a lot more going on, especially when you play defensive coordinators that are really good. You play a Steve Spagnuolo, it ain't just going to be your man running at you that's right in front of you. He's probably
Yeah.
going to send a lot of disguised blitzes. He's going to do a lot of stunts, especially if he knows you struggle at it. So I think our biggest issue, if we didn't, or if we're not going to make playoffs, or if we didn't make playoffs, I think it'll be the offensive line.
Yeah. I think that's an easy number one of why. And when I put interior O line, it's really not as much of Makai because we know what he is, but That Bozeman and Zion, what are we going to get from them? I think improved play as well, but that's probably where our season depends on because if they don't produce, that means we're not being able to run the ball. We get stuck in third and long, and then now we have to have Trey protect and Alt. And we believe in Alt. He can be a left tackle. I firmly believe he'll be a top left tackle in this league this year,
Right.
now that that's his position. And Trey's a better tackle than he was a guard. So we should get serviceable play, like you said. I think that was a great word for it, serviceable play. One other thing that, in recent days that has come to my attention, I'm like, that's not a bad point in some podcasts that I was listening to and doing some of the research on it and just looking at our position groups, right? Um, Maybe lack of pass rushers and lack of a pass rush could be an issue. Minter's a zone guy. That's what he specializes in. Yeah, we blitz and stuff like that. But if you look at it outside of Khalil Mack, which Khalil Mack is on the back of his career anyways, he's not that Raiders or early Bears Khalil Mack. He was
Yeah.
still been great for us. I'm not saying he's over the hill at all. I think he's going to be a great player. But if I had to look at something, him and then Tooley is essentially all we have for guys that get to the quarterback, and that's like their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. And then if we're not getting to the quarterback, that means they get to sit there and pick apart the zone. So if I had to find a reason defensively why we could be in a little bit more trouble this year, I think that could be the thing. Do I think that will happen? Probably not. But, just looking to play the game and see what could be out there for us and what some possible issues are. But I think sending Derwin fixes that, right? Derwin will be up by the line. That's something I forgot to mention when I looked at about our linebackers too, and that safeties when we talked about the roster prediction. I think Darwin's going to be like a
Yeah.
box safety all year, and
Hmm.
Molden and Gilman are going to get a lot of playing time together, and Derwin will just be that nickel, and it'll be like Henley and Derwin out there.
Yeah.
So I think it could be a scary sight for the league if that's going on, because obviously Derwin is still going to be able to stop the run.
Oh, for
And
sure.
with the big defensive line we got, we're not worried too much about runners anyway, and Henley's making tackles. So
No.
I had to point that out because that's one thing that was in my head earlier, and I forgot to say. But I think Derwin's impact is going to be more what he's been great at his whole career
Hmm.
in that box than compared to being on that perimeter.
Yeah, and I think that's why like men are kind of like you could tell based on different coordinators like schemes and how they do things, but I think that's why Henley just fits so well with this team. I mean, if we were a team that were lighter along a defensive line, I don't know if Henley would have the same success. I mean, I think he's
True.
tremendous. I think he would still be really good, but when you have that amount of, I guess you could say like girth up front, everybody's over 300 pounds, in that D line
Yep.
it allows you to be a little bit lighter on the linebacker side. But then, like you said, you're bringing in Derwin, who's a safety, but he can play in the box because we know how hard he hits, how sound of a tackler he is.
And he's
Look at
big
that
too.
athleticism. Yeah, look at that athleticism now that you have in that linebacker room, as opposed to having, just these thumpers as a linebacker who they getting downhill, they're pounders. No, we got versatile. They can get down after the run, but they're super athletic and they can cover. They guard tight ends. They're on slot receivers sometimes. So especially Derwin. I mean, I always whenever I think about Derwin and coverage, I always think about this one play when they were playing the Cardinals and D Hop was over there. He
Yeah.
covered them on like an out route. I think the ball it was like a high thrown ball, and you just seen Derwin undercut the route, leap up, two hands, interception. I'm like, Derwin is just like I don't know in many safeties that's covering wide receivers like that. And
Yep.
Hopkins wasn't no slouch at that time. Yeah, he may have been, maybe like I think maybe 30 at that time, but like D Hopkins he was still doing
Yeah.
some numbers at that time. So big shout out to Derwin, man. That's my guy.
Yeah, for sure. So definitely, seems like we're both on the will be a playoff team side of the ball here, but I think that's a good way to look at the season because then we get to highlight, some positives, look at some things that could be possible that hinder us in the long run. But I think we just have so much going on with this team on the good side of things that it's going to make for a really fun 2025 season. Which gets us to one of the last things we're going to talk about here this episode, our record prediction. So, going through the schedule, I don't know if you did win last. We don't have to go through the whole thing, but just overall, if you had to give your record prediction right now, what do you say the Chargers will be after 17 weeks this year?
So I would probably have them pegged probably the same. I would have the same finish as we did last year. So I do have us going 11-6.
Okay.
But I think when you look at the schedule, obviously we have a much tougher strength of schedule this year. Um, so that 11-6 looks a lot different than last year's. I still think that looking up all the odds, like to look at my bets and everything like that. But if you look at all the whole entire schedule, we're favored in I think it's 12 games, 12
Yeah.
games on the slate. Um, so when you look at that, it's like, okay, not saying that just because you're favored you're going to win, but when you look at Harbaugh's track record, he wins. He gets his team to win the games that they're supposed to.
Yeah.
So when you see I forgot someone was doing a record prediction and they predicted the Bolts to go like I think it was like 9-8 or something like that, and they had him. They were saying like yeah they're gonna drop the game to the Titans. And I can't remember the other one. I think it might have been the Raiders at home. We're gonna drop
Hmm.
the game, and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, Harbaugh. First of all, neither one of those teams, they're not going to come close to beating us. That's just my prediction. But Harbaugh is not going to have us losing those type of games, knowing that these are the games that we should win. Like you look at last year. Everybody says, "Oh, they didn't beat any playoff teams outside of the Broncos," blah blah blah. But it's like every other team, all those teams that were less talented than we were, what did we do? We beat them. That's
Yeah.
the same thing that's going to happen this year. We're going to beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, and then obviously taking that next step, beating those better teams. Like I said, we're favored in 12 of the games, and it's five other opponents. The other ones that we're not favored is week 1 versus the Chiefs in Brazil,
Yeah.
week 14 versus the Eagles at home, 15 versus the Chiefs, obviously in Arrowhead, and then the last two. Well, actually, no, it's one more game, honestly. I think so. There's definitely a typo, and I don't know if you saw it or not, but there's a typo and there's an error on the information that I was pulling up on DraftKings. But they have the literally Chargers plus 4.5 at the Titans. I'm like, what? Why are we underdogs at the Titans? So it was a typo on that.
Gotta be.
Yeah, typo on that, or someone knows something that we do not. Um, like seriously, there's someone point shaving for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but then the last one was versus the Broncos, obviously week 18 in Mile High. But even look at those games. I mean, let's say if we did lose all those, okay, what is that? 12-4. I mean, 12-5. So I'm looking at those games and I'm like, there's no way we don't go over our 9.5 record, win loss total. But I do have us at 11-6. I think that there are going to be obviously some games that we drop, and we got some tough ones on the schedule this year. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're up to the task. But yeah, I got us at 11-6,
Okay.
making the playoffs and then
Yep.
making a big push.
Yeah. So I'm with you on us going over that total. It's crazy. Our record or division, excuse me, is one of the toughest in football. I have them at the second toughest, especially after what happened in the NFC North today. I think that'll be the toughest division for good teams. But I think we have three really good teams and then one team that's not as bad as they're going to look because they have to play us six times, with being the Raiders. They're better. I don't think they have much to keep up with us in Denver and KC. And they always find a way to sneak one of those games against us, one of the three of us. So hopefully we're not the one this year. They get KC often. Sometimes they find a way to do it against Denver, right? But and they got Pete Carroll. So just having coaching and a winning culture, we saw it last year, and we teams can feed off of that. But I just don't think they have the talent that the other teams have. Coming back to us though, I think the only thing that can take away from my record prediction um, is really the travel based of our schedule. Because if you look at it, we start on the road the first two games. Okay, so I'm gonna go. We're in Brazil. Okay, and it's Thursday. It's a Friday night, so we have the extra day, and we have one more day because we have a Monday night in Vegas, which really isn't too much of travel from LA. That's a quick flight, so we aren't gonna leave till Saturday anyway. So that kind of nulls that out. But it's still a road game. Two games on the road. Then we come home with Denver, really tough team. A lot of people love Denver. And then we start this home and away stretch where we're going East Coast to West Coast every week at New York, then back home against Washington, which will be a tough home game.
Yeah.
New York shouldn't be too tough, but they have a good D line and it's travel and it's an early game in New York. Chargers struggle when we play the early game on the West or the East Coast. Then we're going back to the East Coast to Miami. Probably will be warm there. It's still going to be October. So that's a factor. Then we come back home against the Colts. We're still at home again in week 8 at this point, but it's a Thursday night game. So not only have we gone back and forth for 4 weeks straight, then after we come back on one of those weeks against a Colts team that's a solid team, a lot of people are a little bit higher on them this year than they were last year. Then we play at home against a really good Minnesota team.
Yep.
So then we go back to Tennessee, come home again to Pittsburgh, back to Jacksonville. So like our schedule doesn't let up travel wise until we hit our bye in week 12. So I think that's going to be the toughest thing to hit our record prediction because I like us in a lot of those games. I look at them and I think just our style of football. We're coming around on a style of football that many teams seem like they're starting to copycat a little bit, but with our size, that just tough football, winning football, we're getting away from the spread football, right? We're taking it back to that mid 2000 football, it looks like 2010s, early 2010s, where we're going to run the ball. We got big bodies on both sides of our line.
Hmm.
And if we control the line of scrimmage, which is a winning recipe, we're going to be a really successful team, and that's what we're built to do. And when you build a team like that, then you add a Justin Herbert behind that. That's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Then you add some really good skill guys around that on both sides, like, Ladd on offense, Derwin on defense, Don Henley on defense.
Yep.
It's a recipe to win games. And so I actually have us at 12-5. I was really struggling to go down from that 13-4 because, like you said, I think we win games we're supposed to win. I have us winning home games, but my biggest question mark is how will that travel affect us? And of course, injuries will play a difference if that happens. But I'm just looking at our team right now, other teams right now. I'm going 12-5, and I'm taking us to dethrone the Chiefs. A lot of people are high on the Broncos to win that division. Um, I understand it because they're going to have a really tough defense, but I don't see Bo Nix taking that needed step forward to overtake teams like us, teams like the Chiefs, and other teams he'll have to face this year. And I think we close those games out. Like I think we start off hot, um, at least getting two out of the three in our first three in our division. We got KC, Vegas, and then Denver. And then from there, I think Washington. They're going to fall into the same thing where the Chiefs were last year, where they won a lot of one-score games, Hail Marys, um,
Yep.
winning at the buzzer, final drives. Can Jaden Daniels do that again? That's tough to do 2 years in a row.
Yep.
Um,
We'll see.
so I feel like that's a little regression to the mean. That's a home game too, so they have to go from east to west.
Yep.
So, and I look at a lot of the other games, and it's like, how are teams going to beat us in those games? Teams have to beat us this year because Herbert didn't turn the ball over last year, other than that playoff game. So you have to beat us. We're not going to give you games, and that's
Mhm.
a Jim Harbaugh team too. So I'm going 12-5, AFC West champions. Call me a homer. I don't care. This is a Bolt Standard podcast.
Nah, man, I'm with you on that, man. I got us taking the division two, even at 11-6, because I think, like you said, there's going to be a regression with the Chiefs. They were undefeated in one score games. They didn't like, oh, go 8-1
It was
or
like 12 of them out of 17.
dude. It was nuts all season long. They did not lose a game when they were within one score, like literally undefeated in one score games last year. It's not going to happen again. Like you said, there's going to be some regression, even if it's one or two games. That's all it takes. That's all
Yep.
it takes for them to come to regress, meet us at 11-6. And I also think that the Broncos will probably finish somewhere in that same realm of 10-7, 11-6 as well. Because like you said, I mean, I think just within our division, man, like it's man, you got to play this. You got to play teams within this division 6 games out of the
Yeah.
17. These are tough teams, man. Even the
Yep.
Raiders, like I said, they're way better coached. They got a lot more talent than they had last year. So these all gonna be tough games. But yeah, no, I'm with you on taking the division. I think that there's going to be a very there's going to be key factors in every different team that we play, especially within our division. And I think Raiders aside, because I don't think they have a chance at fighting for the division. But when you look at like the Broncos, you look at like you said, Bo Nix. I think that's going to be their key factor.
Right.
AZ going to take that second step forward. And I think Chiefs, I think their key factors. Well, one, Rashi Rice is done for 6 games, the first 6 games, so that's going to hurt them. That's going to hurt them a lot. We saw last year when they didn't have him, their offense it didn't look like the Chiefs'
Hmm.
offense at all because they didn't
Yep.
have that elite threat underneath to open up that deep passing game. Then I think their official crux or key factor is their O line. Mahomes can make things happen. Andy Reid is really a tremendous coach. He's gonna scheme up things. But if you can't protect Mahomes, I mean, we've seen any quarterback. You can't protect them, and they're fighting for their lives the whole game. It's not gonna look good. So I do think that there's like you said, there's definitely a chance for us all to kind of just be right in the thick of it, all those three teams. But I see us, coming out on top. Like I said, with all the upgrades that we've made, um, I don't see it any other way. So I'm right
Right.
there with you, man. Taking the division, we need it. Got to get it back.
Somebody's got to take down the Chiefs. Why not us, man? I
Absolutely.
just love what we're doing. My last thoughts on this preview show is like how many years, and it's 2025. This is year two of Harbaugh. I guess going back to since we got rid of Marty, have I gone into a season where I felt like just because we're a well-coached team, a good football team, we're going to play a good brand of football, are we going to be in games? Other than last year, I can't remember a year since like Marty Ball and like '06, those years where I felt like that. So like just going into Sundays, knowing that this is the team we're putting on the field, like I really enjoy that. It's fun to score points, that's awesome. But like to know that this is a football team with a real football coach with
Yep.
big bodies and we're coming to play football, like I love that. So I'm just super excited to see what we do. Cannot wait for next Friday. I can't even wait for the next pod when we talk about next Friday in depth. So, yeah, that man, I'm looking forward to this 2025 season.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and definitely, like you said, just anticipation for that next pod because there's gonna be all different types of things that we talk about. We'll get back to our obviously pregame matchups and kind of looking at those previews and telling you what we like and what's gonna be the key matchups in that game, kind of those indicators of how we're gonna be able to attack the Chiefs, win that game. We'll obviously have some betting points in there as well. We'll introduce our segment, which I think you guys will love.
Yeah.
Not gonna give you the title just yet. You gotta tune in next week to get it. But yeah, man, it's gonna be so much fun stuff. But like I said, man, if you guys were able to kind of stick around with us on this podcast, we just appreciate you guys being here. We're just trying to bring you guys the best Chargers content that we can. So if you're still here with us, make sure that obviously you see it right on the bottom, man. Make sure you give us a like, drop a comment. Like I said, we love all feedback. We love all feedback. It doesn't matter if it's good, it's bad. It doesn't matter. Just say something. Let us know you're out there, you're watching, you're tuned in. Um, and like I said, if it's bad, that's good. Well, it's going to help us. Hey, they didn't like this. Let's try to do this a little bit better. Like I said, we're focused on bringing you guys the best content, so that's only going to help us get better. Um, Give us a share, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check all of our socials. Hit us up on TikTok. Hit us up on Instagram. But until next time and next week when we got the Chiefs, week 1 on Friday, bolt up.